Let's start with our first news. Netflix MVP card highlights have just wrapped up, bringing chaos, reactions, and viral moments from the first ever event. Before the main card, fans noticed a nearly empty arena and called it the biggest MMA fight ever. Arman was involved in a backstage altercation at the Netflix event, trying to confront Namo Fazil before being stopped. Francis Ngannou dominated Philip Lind, landing heavy kicks, surviving grappling exchanges, and securing a brutal first-round knockout. He called out John Jones after the win, sparking tension over contracts, UFC politics, and a possible future mega fight. Nate Diaz faced Mike Perry in a brutal co-main event, getting pressured, cut up, and overwhelmed by relentless strikes. The fight ended after round 2, when the doctor stopped it due to Diaz's damage and exhaustion. Ronda Rousey shocked Gina Carano, securing an armbar finish in seconds after a massive weight cut story. Both fighters embraced emotionally after the finish, closing the event with respect and surprise across the MMA world. Community reactions poured in from analysts and fighters, praising finishes and criticizing the uneven matchups throughout the card. Overall, the Netflix MMA card delivered shock finishes, controversial moments, and major callouts that could shape future matchups in the sport. It began with crowd speculation, escalated with Arman's confrontation, and peaked with devastating knockouts and submissions across the main card. Nate Diaz struggled under pressure against Mike Perry, while Ronda Rousey delivered a lightning-fast submission over Gina Carano. Fighter reactions online ranged from shock to praise, with many highlighting the intensity and unpredictability of the event. The card reinforced Netflix's growing presence in combat sports, setting the stage for bigger events and even more global attention moving forward within the MMA landscape today and beyond now, period. Move on to another news. Mike Perry death Nate Diaz via corner stoppage after the second round. Mike Perry defeated Nate Diaz via corner stoppage after round 2, delivering a brutal performance marked by heavy pressure, sharp elbows, and constant forward aggression. Much like Diaz's fight with Jorge Masvidal, Diaz suffered a deep cut and bled heavily throughout the contest while trying to survive Perry's relentless attacks. At the end of round 2, Diaz absorbed a brutal knee and remained on the canvas for an extended moment before his corner stepped in and stopped the fight. After the stoppage, Diaz immediately called for a rematch, while Mike Perry called out Jake Paul for an MMA fight, escalating the post-fight tension in the arena. Fighters and analysts reacted instantly, with Ilham Muhammad criticizing Diaz's preparation, Tim Welch reacting in shock, and Ben Askren noting the shocking amount of blood. Jared Gordon commented that the referee would have let things go too far, while Dylan Danis mocked Diaz, calling the performance embarrassing and one-sided. MMA analyst MMA Guru described it as a brutal beatdown, saying Diaz was close to life-changing damage if the fight continued into round 3. Mike Perry, speaking after the win, hinted at bigger fights, mentioning Jake Paul directly and even joking about MMA versus boxing crossover matchups in future. The post-fight interaction between Perry and Jake Paul included mutual respect, back-and-forth challenge talk, and a clear interest in running it back inside the cage. Perry expressed confidence, saying nobody beats him twice, while Diaz's corner and fans reacted emotionally to the stoppage and the damage he absorbed. The arena atmosphere shifted heavily after the finish, with commentators calling it one of the most violent and one-sided performances of the event. Perry celebrated with intensity, while Diaz left the situation visibly compromised, marking a dramatic and emotional end to a high-profile MMA clash. Commentators and fans online flooded social media with reactions, with many calling Perry's pressure overwhelming and Diaz's durability tested beyond limits. Some praised the stoppage as necessary, while others debated whether the referee should have stepped in earlier. Post-fight energy stayed high as Perry pushed for a potential showdown with Jake Paul, while Diaz demanded an immediate rematch despite the damage. The crowd reaction remained intense, with discussions shifting toward future Netflix MMA events and possible crossover super fights already being teased beyond the fighting cage. Move on to another news. Arman talks about Khamzat's weight situation and the brutal reality behind his UFC 328 fight against Sean Strickland. Khamzat suffered a loss in that matchup, and many started questioning whether he was truly the unstoppable force people believed him to be. However, others pointed to the extreme weight cut as a major factor behind his defeat inside the cage. Arman Sarakin shared new behind-the-scenes details, confirming that Khamzat was dealing with serious problems making 185 pounds. According to Arman, by the day before the official weigh-in, Khamzat still had 13 pounds left to cut. He explained that the situation became worse overnight, and everything started going wrong during that final stretch. The team noticed that Khamzat's condition dropped rapidly, and the cut became a major struggle that required constant pressure from his corner. As the process continued, Khamzat reportedly woke up feeling extremely weak, drained, and low on energy, admitting he did not know how he would finish the final pounds. Arman described how the last 9 pounds were manageable at first, but the final phase became a serious battle. He said Khamzat was struggling mentally and physically, refusing to continue at moments, but the team pushed him through the process to ensure he made weight. The pressure was intense, and according to Arman, even Khamzat himself did not want to complete the cut, but the coaches insisted he had to finish it no matter what. The interview also addressed speculation around whether Khamzat actually made weight on the official scale. Some fans believed there was confusion with the commission's equipment and claimed the measurement may have been rushed before the scale fully stabilized. Arman strongly denied those claims, insisting that Khamzat did make the official 185-pound limit without issue. He further explained the UFC's internal process, stating that fighters must pass an initial backstage check before being allowed onto the official commission scale. According to him, if Khamzat had been over the limit on the automatic UFC scale, he would not have been permitted to proceed to the official weigh-in at all. Arman made it clear that everything followed proper procedure, and Khamzat was cleared before stepping on stage for the official weigh-in. Move on to another news. Francis Ngannou death Philippe Lins via KO in the first round. Francis Ngannou delivered a devastating knockout victory, finishing Philippe Lins early in round 1 with his trademark power and explosive striking. The finish came quickly, leaving no doubt about the impact and timing of the shot that ended the fight. Following the KO, major reactions flooded in from the MMA world. Ariel Helwani reacted by confirming Francis Ngannou's first-round knockout over Philippe Lins, while Derek Brunson emphasized the sheer simplicity of his power, saying it is truly a one-shot, one-finish situation with no follow-up needed. Corey Anderson also reacted, warning fighters that when Francis throws his left hook, staying anywhere near it is a dangerous mistake. After the fight, attention quickly shifted to Francis Ngannou and Jon Jones, who exchanged words following the performance. In the post-fight interview, Francis was asked directly about Jon Jones watching him compete. He acknowledged Jones as a great fighter, even calling him potentially the best he has ever faced in MMA, but he also questioned his business decisions and timing in the sport. Francis stated that Jon Jones still has things to learn outside the cage and suggested he should be paying attention to what Francis is doing. He added that a fight between them is something that will eventually happen before both retire. When asked if Jones even wants the fight, Francis said he believes so, but criticized his mentality, saying he still does not know how to fully operate inside the business side of fighting. Francis made it clear he sees himself victorious in any potential matchup, showing full confidence in his ability. However, he also highlighted that contract issues remain a major obstacle, explaining that getting out of his UFC contract is the hardest part of making the fight happen. He suggested that doing it outside the UFC, potentially with MVP involvement, would be the most realistic path forward. He also noted that Dana White is unlikely to do business for that matchup, making negotiations even more complicated. Despite that, Francis remains open to the idea if contractual barriers can be resolved. Analysts reacted by praising his performance, yet noting his improved kicking game and overall striking evolution in recent fights. Some even compared the potential magnitude of Francis versus Jon Jones to crossover events like Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, suggesting it could reach massive global attention. Discussions also touched on marketing potential, sponsorship deals, and how major brands could play a role in making such a fight financially possible. The moment ended with growing anticipation for what comes next in Francis Ngannou's career and whether the dream super fight can ever become reality. Move on to another news. Arman Tsarukyan altercation backstage at the Netflix card has just taken center stage as the event wrapped up with chaos both inside and outside the cage. The Carano card on Netflix concluded with a wave of controversy, and Arman Tsarukyan was right in the middle of the action before the main card even began. Earlier in the night, Namo Fossil defeated Jakayan via Darsh choke in the second round, delivering a strong submission performance. Immediately after the win, Fossil called out Arman during his post-fight interview, triggering an instant reaction. Arman did not wait long, as he confronted Fossil cage-side moments later, Witnesses reported that Arman attempted to jump over the railing in an effort to reach him, creating a tense and heated situation ringside. Security quickly moved in as the situation escalated, preventing any physical contact between the two. Arman was then seen later trying to confront Fossil again backstage, adding even more intensity to the already chaotic atmosphere. The tension between the fighters continued to build as both sides were separated by officials and security personnel. During the broadcast, officials were forced to intervene, with staff repeatedly instructing attendees to return to their seats and maintain order. Announcements were made over the arena system as security worked to control movement in the venue. The situation briefly interrupted the flow of the event, with staff urging everyone to settle down before the main card proceeded. Despite the disruption, the event continued, but the spotlight had already shifted toward the backstage incident involving Arman. His reaction became one of the most talked about moments of the night, overshadowing portions of the fight card itself. Fans and commentators quickly reacted to the confrontation, with discussions spreading across social media about the escalation and Arman's aggressive pursuit backstage. Meanwhile, Namo Fossil's call-out added fuel to the fire, as his victory celebrating turned into a direct challenge that sparked immediate retaliation. The combination of a submission win, a bold call-out, and a near backstage confrontation turned the moment into one of the most explosive storylines of the entire event. As security continued to manage the situation, Arman's attempt to reach Fossil remained a key talking point, highlighting the rising tension between fighters on the roster. The night closed with uncertainty and anticipation, as the confrontation set the stage for a potential future matchup that now carries serious personal intensity moving forward. Move on to another news. Dana White has officially announced that Conor vs. Max Holloway 2 is set for UFC 329 on July 11th, marking one of the biggest rematches in UFC history. This will be Conor's first fight since his leg injury against Dustin Poirier at UFC 264 back in 2021, bringing him back after a long layoff and massive speculation about his return. The fight will take place in the welterweight division, meaning Max Holloway will move up to 170 for the first time in his career. Dana White revealed the announcement during a live Instagram broadcast, while Francis Ngannou was making his walkout on the Netflix event, adding even more chaos to an already stacked combat sports weekend. The UFC 329 card is loaded with major fights, including BSD versus Paddy Pimblett in the co-main event, Corey Sandhagen versus Mario Bautista, Brandon Royval versus Lone Kavanagh, and Gable Stefansson making his UFC debut against Elijah Ellison. Robert Whittaker is also set to move up to light heavyweight to face Nikita Krylov, making the event one of the most stacked cards of the year. Following the announcement, reactions came in immediately from both fighters. Conor sent a message on social media, claiming he would dominate Max again and repeating his confidence heading into the rematch. He followed up with a post saying Max would be forced to respect his name, escalating the verbal war between the two. Max Holloway quickly fired back, posting a video of his head kick knockout from their first fight and reminding Conor of their previous meeting. He responded by saying Conor would be the one forced to respect his name this time, adding that fans would see exactly what happens on fight night. Holloway ended his message by stating that everything would be settled inside the octagon on Saturday night. The build-up between the two fighters immediately reignited one of the most iconic rivalries in UFC history, with both men exchanging sharp words and confidence ahead of the rematch. Analysts noted that the weight class change, combined with Conor's long layoff, could play a major role in the outcome, while others pointed to Max's recent form and durability as key advantages. As anticipation builds, UFC 329 is already being labeled as one of the most explosive cards in recent memory, with multiple high-level fights stacked across the lineup. The announcement has set the stage for a massive showdown between Conor and Max Holloway, bringing their rivalry back into the spotlight at a completely new level. Move on to another news. Conor continues to dominate headlines as the most tested fighter in the UFC roster, according to the latest updated figures released in 2026. All year long, fans have been tracking his unusual testing frequency, and with June approaching, he still holds a clear lead over every other athlete on the roster. Recent data shared by Jed Goodman on X revealed that in 2026 alone, 673 fighters have been tested, with a total of 1,761 samples collected overall. As of May 15th, Conor has been tested 11 times, putting him far ahead of the rest of the roster. The next closest fighters, Basil Hafez and Luis Diaz-Dace, have only been tested 5 times each, meaning Conor has undergone 6 more tests than them. The numbers also show a large group of fighters sitting at around 4 tests each, but Conor remains in a category of his own. His testing schedule has become a major talking point across the MMA community, with ongoing debates about fairness, randomness, and how athletes are selected throughout the year. Conor has also regularly responded to Jed Goodman's posts, often engaging directly with the testing statistics and questioning inconsistencies in the system. In his latest reaction, he raised concerns about why some fighters appear to not be tested at all, calling the situation unusual and prompting further discussion among fans. Despite the intense testing schedule, Conor's return to the octagon is still not officially confirmed. Although speculation continues to grow, recent reports suggest that a major comeback fight may already be in motion. According to a report shared by ACD MMA and the New York Post, the Conor vs. Max Holloway rematch is close to being finalized. The report states that Conor is already in training camp, with the fight expected to take place at UFC 329 on July 11th in the welterweight division at 170 pounds. If confirmed, this would mark one of the biggest returns in recent UFC history, bringing Conor back after a long layoff following his injury in 2021. The combination of constant testing headlines and growing fight rumors has kept Conor at the center of MMA discussion throughout the year. With speculation building around his comeback, fans continue to watch closely as UFC 329 approaches, and major announcements appear increasingly imminent in the weeks ahead.